Hello and welcome to Stampscapes Friday Night Live. We just did a scene and I want to incorporate a little bit more into it. And as I was doing this one from the other day, I was thinking that the covered bridge might be kind of an interesting addition to that scenario. And this is a pretty fast, relatively speaking, scene to do because I'm not adding too much, kind of coloring after the initial impressions, creating the layout for the piece. So let's see how it goes. I have something roughly in mind. I stamped this out just to get kind of the gist of where I might put this, because there's a road coming down this way, and we need to add in some extra elements in there to continue that road where it ends. All right, so let's see what we can do here. And then I was thinking about this deer, and we'll give this a try along with the birch trees. I'm going to try something with this deer here, and if it doesn't come out, I'm just going to have to stamp it again. This is some just very inexpensive marble paper, so easy to stamp out your scenarios, and if you don't like it, you just toss it out, because after all, these are disposable marble paper placemats, so marble pattern placemat papers, so kind of interesting to work with. Okay, so these are some birch trees I'm going to add in here, but I need to continue this. Here's the trick to this one right here. This has this road right here that's coming around in this direction here, so I need to place some additional imagery here that's going to continue this in this area, and that's going to kind of instruct where I can place my additional trees. All right, so let's give it a shot here. Hello, Linda, how are you? Happy Friday to you. Hope you had a good week. Let's see here. Okay, this is the sedge filler stamp. I'm kind of wiping off some of this ink off the edges right here, especially on this really porous paper like this, okay? Because it can create like really thick edges on the side. And I'm working with a thicker ink, with this hybrid ink a lot of times these days on this type of paper. And this is a very absorbent paper, so if you get kind of those harder edges, it's not really any big deal, but because you can blend them in later, but I just assume not have to blend in if I don't have to, or blend in as much, okay? Well, this doesn't look like too graceful of an angle like that, but it doesn't have to be, because you're going to be filling in this whole area with a lot more imagery, texture, color, media, etc. Okay, so that's how that goes right there. Now I'm going to add in my other elements in here. And this is going to provide a good kind of structure for those additional elements. Okay, I'm looking at this right here. I'm starting to think maybe the fences or something like that would be good in here. I'm not sure. Yeah, that marble's pretty fun though, huh, Linda? It's kind of a good, it's a good, it's kind of like, it's not neutral because it's textured, but it is kind of neutral. It's light enough to where you can just kind of stamp over the top of it with whatever you want. Maybe not in all areas of it where it has kind of some darker areas, and if you're stamping it into an image that has a big open area, all that's going to show through. But for the most part, it seems kind of neutral enough to just stamp anything you want on there. So I'm being a little bit less careful these days. The more I use it, the more comfortable I get with it. So it's been pretty fun, I would say. All right, let's see. Let's go with another one of these right in here, like about like so. That multi-pack that you got, Linda, how many different patterns? It was one of those paper blocks, right? It has several different patterns in there, like a stack of them, was it? Or was it just the same pattern, but on? I think you said it was that block format, wasn't it? Like a scrapbooking format. All right, now see right in here, I stamped these birch trees, and this is an open area, so all that texturing shows right through them. But the thing is that we have the white paint pen, so we just eradicate all of that coming through there. Another good way, if I was spending more time on something like this composition, and if I wanted to do a vellum technique where you stamp the tree trunks over the vellum, then you block them out from behind, and then you just glue that entire vellum on there, we can do that too, or instead of this. All right, let's see. Let's go for these 3 trunks here. I would do layers of this if I was doing vellum. I would block some out and have the other ones in the foreground. Okay, let's see how we do here. I can't really see through my deck and peel really well, so I'm not sure if I got that. Okay, now see there, that looks pretty good. I just didn't want that that trunk to cover my focal point, which is going to be that bridge in there. But this going through those trees, again, we'll reclaim that with a white acrylic paint pen. All right, let me see. Let me get some of this ink up. I really, I find that I'm really inking up my ink pad, my black ink pad, quite a bit with this paper. It's just so absorbent. So there's not a lot of ink retention on the surface of these because it's soaking right through the paper like that. So I want to go for really dark impressions, or as dark as an impression as I can get. So I find I'm using a lot of ink with this type of paper here. I don't know if I've ever used such a cheap paper before, where it's just absolutely soaking right through. Luckily, it's dense enough to where visibly, we don't have any runs in this right here. So, it's good enough. It's cool enough for me to, really want to use, just that entire pattern on there. And of course, cost. It wasn't, it was cheap for you on getting another type of paper, right? But this one, the placemat paper, was really expensive, you said. All right, deer like that. You can see it's a little bit more dark in the back, but that thicker black ink is still a little bit, I don't know, it's like a 85% gray, I guess, or something like that. Reflective of the paper. I usually don't like that. I mean, I would prefer, it stamps out darker and this paper be thicker, but, this pack was, it is like $16 for like 100 sheets, so I'm not complaining. All right, let's see. Let's get some of these leaves in here. Okay, I just went with these leaves and just this one set on this card, and maybe that is better, but, we're experimenting around with this, so maybe I'll go for some lighter leaves in the background, and then I'll try to layer some larger leaves in the front here. So, that being said, I'll make the ones in the back lighter than the ones closer to us, in theory. Yeah. Everything is in theory until you kind of test it out, right? All right, let me see if I have a decent. Oh, here. I'm gonna do it with some pens here. My Marby pads. I definitely need to pick up some more pads before too long. Okay, let's see. 6 patterns. Okay, yeah, double-sided. 8.5 by 8.5. A thick vellum type paper. Oh, hard to stamp. It's resisting the ink a little bit then, huh? That's a lot of sheets there. For 100 sheets at that 8.5. So that 8.5 by 8.5, that sounds like those are the types of papers that they're probably thinking that you're building a layout on, right? 8.5 by 8.5. Is that it? They're kind of like layout pages. That's a lot of pages. I'm surprised. I mean, it's good. So 100 sheets. Huh. All right. Smaller leaves in the background. That looks okay. I'll kind of have these hanging down. I'm stamping them kind of low in here because I'll have the larger ones kind of up a little bit higher. Maybe, I don't know. Let's see how this goes. So that marble paper, though, there's probably all kinds of different marble color schemes, right? Well, Cynthia, how are you? Okay. Let's see here. I should look at some other marble papers then. In those packs. If I could find a good pack, I'll probably pick another one of those up because I've really been enjoying working with this. It's neutral enough. I mean, it's a little bit more, I don't know. It looks like clouds to me in many ways, so it's kind of like I feel like I'm doing something on something styled in a way. It's stylish like the wood grain paper. I mean, it doesn't look the same, but just in terms of something kind of interesting to stamp on. And it's neutral enough, like that wood grain paper, to stamp on whatever we want. But just basic enough to, that we, you can do all kinds of different scenarios over the top. It's kind of getting me to stamp out, kind of in a more simple manner, I guess, which is kind of good, I guess, for me. I keep saying I guess. Because it's kind of exciting, I can't layer as much stuff, so I have to be a little bit more, I don't know. I have to spend more time with the impressions in whatever, deciding the layout, because again, you can't like layer too much on here. 100 sheets were 45 placemat paper that you paid. Oh, I get it. Okay, I see, Linda. Yeah, that's a lot. Hello, Cheryl. How are you? Oh, yeah, yeah, Cheryl. Yeah, those first, I don't know, whatever, 500 or whatever 600 videos. Yeah, just hands only. And then I got this software. It's like, I should probably utilize some of those other, some of that other tech that's out there. And then one of the things about this software here, I don't have to have my face on here. In fact, I kind of cringe whenever I see it. If I watch a playback, or something like that. That's why on the those faster kind of sped up videos that I do, I always kind of like crop myself out of there. But yeah, the streaming software is kind of nice. But also with this software too, that I use where I can have, multiple cameras. I don't have to. I used to have to on all those other videos. For some reason, it was the capabilities of the cameras or something like that, or the what do you call it? The disk that you put in there, the memory card that you put into the cameras, the capabilities, it can only record in like 15-minute segments at most. So I always had to, on all those older videos, after shooting a video, I had to go back in and compile all those separate segments of the video into one video before posting. So I don't know, this one, so I can have my distracting face in here, but also it's just easier. All right, overhanging limbs right here. So we're layering some different foliage, and we'll make it pop and kind of bring it out a little bit more, or a lot more, with the use of the paint pens like this, okay? So it kind of looks a little bit ugly right now. First of all, we're going over black, black ink right here with these transparent colors. So the colors, or the imagery in the background is just going to be showing right through these leaves here. But that is something that can be remedied, okay? Thanks for watching all that time with the old videos too. All right, here we go. All right, so we have a little canopy, and you can see, okay, now this one's right here. It's kind of lighter and less dense, but we're testing out these papers a little bit. I want to see what, we can do with these different types of, I don't know, kind of minimalist layers, or whatever you want to call it here. All right, now we have all this area down here to fill in too. I'm starting to think that maybe I should do it with a lighter touch too. So let's go with second impressions. Okay, so I'm going to use my sedge filler here. Right here, I'm going to take off a lot off the edge, and I'll do an impression like that. And then I'll do these impressions like this, which are going to be a lighter shade of gray. Like that. In this area, it's just, I don't know, I'm just saying that because it's getting a little bit heavy. And then, again, this is something okay, now these two areas right here are going to be a little bit darker in shadow, okay? So I'll just go with the straight first impression. And then let's get some, I don't know, secondary, third impressions in the background, about like so. Ideally, there would be some more trees back there, but it's just going to get too cluttered, so we're not going to do that. And then we have our texture stamp here. Well, it's rocks, but I just use it as textures, and we're going to carry that texture in the middle of that dirt road into this open area right in here, like that. And then we'll also bring some of that texture into this grassy area, just to kind of give it a little bit more unity. I'm going to have to really shade this well and color it to kind of bring this whole area in here together quite a bit more in this crazy layout here. But this is the scenario I was kind of thinking about when I did this piece right here. This piece is like really minimal. It's super easy to do, but I was thinking I wanted to see what this would look like as like an opening through the trees into the background like that. So, you know, start easy and then work a little bit, or emptier and then work denser, I guess. Okay, let's see. I'm trying to push depth here in this scene, so I think I'm going to use my Art Foamies reeds here. On this one, I just went with some of the smaller ones down here, but let's go with the bigger ones here and then see what this can do. I'm going to bring a lot of colored pencils in here, so it's just best to do all the impressions, at least the significant impressions that you're going to be doing on here now before you start applying things like colored pencils or maybe even watercolor pencils. But let's see how it goes. Just because some inks aren't going to stamp over the top of wax very well, you know, like, you know, several layers of colored pencil or something like that. All right. If anyone doesn't know what this is an Art Foamy, they call it. Sold on the Art Foamies website. I don't sell them. But they're Stampscapes stamps, though. Stampscapes designs. Alright, so this is kind of the opening. That's the visual opening right here, but I'm still leaving a little bit of an opening to get into the scene right here. That deer is right there. Here, let's put a little bit more grass in front of that. When you're looking to do a scene, you know, we're at the vantage point of, you know, wherever you create it. So putting a little bit more brush here kind of creates a little bit more of a barrier where that deer's not going to run away from us. Yeah, it looks kind of big in there, so sometimes, you know, I would leave things a lot more open typically. Like this one's kind of farther back in the distance right here, so I have this bigger opening like that, you know, but this one's right, like, it's like the closest thing to you, so I'm putting more grass in front of us, so you're creating a little bit more of a, whatever, a safety barrier between you and the creature, the skittish creature. All right, I think I should leave that as is. I think it's going to get really busy in there, so let's try coloring this now. Look at this right here. So this is like my just cheap copy paper, and you can see kind of how, you know, thin this paper is. This paper right here, this placemat paper, is thinner than the copy paper. It's just this one is just so cheap. So it's cheap in whatever paper, as far as paper quality goes, but it's also, you know, it's also not for Linda B, who's in, you know, north of the border here, but it was cheap down here. It's the cheapest placemat paper I've ever bought. The other ones have been like much thicker, so this is not like the quality of all of them. The wood grain and especially the suede paper, you know, they're really pretty thick, but this one's like so thin. It's like tissue thin. Okay, so let's see here. Hello, Janet. How are you? Bonnie, good to see you. Okay, let's see here. Eating breakfast for dinner. I love it. What are you eating then? Eggs? Or did you go all out with the pancakes or something like that? I love eating breakfast for dinner. We don't do it too often, but it often comes to mind I mean, we do it sometimes. Okay, I'm just laying down a really thin layer. I need to keep track of these birch trunks right here. I'm doing a really thin layer of this, so we'll be working from light and dull to dark and bright, okay? So you lay things down, even though this pencil can get pretty bright, you start off with a really light touch like this. I do, at least. I mean, if you're a colored pencilist and you really know what you're doing with colored pencils and you have your technique of getting all those different textures and things like that, then, by, all means do that. But for me, I like working really slow. And when I do this, I can kind of get the gist of, I don't know, my color scheme, which I don't have worked out, my lighting scheme, and all of that as I go. Just in general, though, I'm going to have this area in here, this opening here, a little bit lighter than these two areas right here. Oftentimes I'll have things in the foreground, but I'll have like this whole area in here casting a shadow, okay? But I'm not going to do this whole thing uniformly. You want darker areas, typically on the sides of your paper, your composition. It's not a rule or anything like that. There's other types of circumstances, but if you want to do some kind of easy... So this is like doing, when you leave areas a little bit lighter on the sides like that, see like this, I can take this area out here and make it a little bit darker. This is coloring right here, but then you leave this lighter right here, and you're also doing lighting, okay? By not coloring everything uniformly. And then what you're also doing is you're also kind of framing at the same time. If the edges are a little bit darker, then you've framed it off a little bit with a vignette. So I guess the vignette, the framing is kind of, same thing as lighting in a way. I mean, but if you do that darker edges, like again, it's that nice vignette or like I don't know, like portrait photography where it's like a studio photography and, it's darker around the edges and it just makes the person look it puts them, as more as like the center of things within the frame. Okay, now here's a darker pencil. No, I'm going to leave it lighter in here, but you can get in the shadows. So the shadow areas of this sedge filler right here, I'm just darkening in like these areas. So I'm kind of reiterating the pattern of that stamp. So I can see it, it's like right here kind of. So I'm just going in there, I'm just making it a little bit dark. You don't have to make it like a lot darker. And see these rocks right down here where I stamped those out? They're texture, but I kind of use them as like a shading tool too. So I'm going in there and just kind of making those a little bit darker, but it's like a 5% darker, just to begin with. Underneath the trees over here, you can start making those a little bit darker. Or that area like this. You can get some in the tree trunks too. The tree trunks down there are going to be fairly dark. Let's create a little bit of continuity between where this grassy texture ends and this open area begins. So let's create a little bit of a continuation of the shadows from over here into this area. And again, if I stamp this sedge filler in between all these trees, I think it would just get too busy. So this is one of those instances where you can just do it after the fact with, color or whatever, media you're using. It's one of those papers, man, if I just go a little bit off the edge and I go like that, it's like, it's just, this paper is so cheap and thin. It snags it. All right, so there is 2 colors of green. I'll come back to those more, but we'll get some other tones down. Hello, Sharita. All right, let's see. Bacon, eggs, and cheese grits. That sounds good. After this live stream, if anyone's close to Bonnie, we're all going over to her place for an after video snack, by the way. Okay, let's add some tone up these birch trunks like this. Okay, so I'm adding it to the left side of the trunk, making this side kind of more of the source of light, or where the light is coming from at least, the direction of the light. Something like that. Kind of make it a little bit, you know, I mean, you can do it very symmetrically, but I do make it a little bit darker in some areas, you know, like this shadow's a little bit thicker. Then I go up here and maybe that area's a little bit thick, as opposed to doing the whole thing completely uniform. Okay. It's a little bit more natural looking that way. Now see these 2 trunks right here. If you want to bring this one out from the background, what you do is you just tone this in a little bit more, so like this, right? Like that. And that makes that tree pop a little bit more. Let's do it on this one right here. And if there's a canopy of leaves up here, chances are you wouldn't have so much lighting up here, so you can kind of illuminate, or not illuminate, but shade, you know, the trunk top. So it's just like some lighting is getting through right there. You can do other things too, like, okay, so this whole side is illuminated right here, but let's say, you know, there's some leaves that are blocking off some of the light beams. So you can do something like this too. You know, you can make, you know, put some shadow in here like this. So it's a little bit, instead of it being just light right side, dark the other side, it goes, you know, for the most part, it's light on the right side and dark on the left side, but it also goes light, darker, light like that. So you're oscillating the light from top to bottom as well. And see that little shadow like that? Here it is kind of all illuminated on the right side. This one's broken up a little bit. Actually, this one looks a little bit better to me, I think. It's more varied. Let's try that here. Let's go a little bit of tone. It doesn't have to be like shaded a lot. You can put like a 5% gray in there or something like that. But now look at where this light is kind of hitting these a little bit differently. So you can kind of play around like that. And that's, you know, using value to your whatever strategic advantage. You know, it doesn't have to always be like, you know, this amount. You can use this amount or this amount of just about any media that you're working with. All right, let's do these ones on the opposite side of the trunks. Okay. Just so that it kind of creates this illusion of lighting coming from within the interior or the center of the scene. And again, that's just my choice here. I generally do that. You can have it where lighting is all coming from one side. And sometimes that looks cool too, or better. Why don't I do this one on this side, right over here? Oops, I colored out of the lines. You don't have to color within the lines. All right, so this trunk right here is a little bit darker, you know, on the side. Maybe that'll kind of reiterate our whole kind of vignette concept here. All right. Let's go in and bring some of this gray into the shadow areas in here as well. That'll bring a little bit of continuity between the trunks and this, especially in the grassy area. Let's create a little bit of a shadow underneath our foreground here like that. So it kind of anchors that down a little bit, and let's create some shadow work with the same color in our grass. I'm thinking about Bonnie's food right now. Because cheese grits sound really good. Well, all of it sounds good. All right. So there's some tones like that. So that's kind of my base right there for other things to come. Let's get some tans and browns into this area. After all, it's supposed to be fall. You know, I don't want to make it too bright of a, greenish, tinge in there. And then we can get some of this tan right here into this road here. Now this is a really light shade of this tan beige warm tone, okay? I'll bring it into my other areas. Actually, we'll put a little bit on the birch trunks too, maybe. We'll do this kind of cool shadow warm light type of thing. So you can bring a little bit in there. Kind of retain some of that white though, so that you can go into the, your white paint pen and white pigment ink at the end, and not have that kind of stand out kind of awkwardly. Let's do this too. Let's bring some of this tan into this bridge here. I've seen this bridge really colored really cool and not boring like I tend to do here, but let's go with 2 tones and start with that, and if we need more, we'll do that. But this is right up top here. I kind of made it a little bit darker in the back and lighter in the front, so I kind of ran some of this, and I used a lighter touch, and by the time I got up here, I didn't apply any of it. So again, there's a little bit of variation, and like underneath the eaves here, I don't know. I just made some of this a little bit darker, but then see how I've left it a little bit lighter like that? It's what I'm doing with everything. So objects typically are colored, they're varied a little bit, even though they're flat or modeled, okay? So you can see like in grassy forms, there's lights and darks. And up here, there's this straight edge type of thing, but you can see it as near and far. So if you have some variation in that, it just kind of contributes to this illusion of depth, because lighting hits it at different angles. So even something like this, even this pen right here, it's lighter up top like this, where it's catching that light, or any of these, and it's kind of darker on the edges. It says that it's not flat, where this right here, this just straight piece of paper, there's not very much variation on it, unless, there's some shadow in there from my hand. But all those little things like that, if you kind of vary things, it just contributes to this notion of 3-dimensional form like that. And how, the application of it is just don't color everything uniformly. Unless you're, you want to give that this more graphic style of a depiction of something where it's flat, like shadow puppetry or something like that. All right, so a little bit of brown tones in here, like this. It's more of that fall color scheme, like that. Now, on this one, I do have these trees in the background. Ideally, probably I should have colored those trees a little bit differently and made the impression where those trees have some variations in here instead of just stamping it all out in black. But we'll just add in some tone like this, and then we'll just bring in some paint pen work later. And that's an easy way to work. I wanted a little bit more brightness in some of the shadow areas down here. I didn't do like any investigative work or like paid a whole lot of attention to it. Just one of my instructors one time when he was walking around the class when we were working, he said, sometimes the brightest colors are in the shadows. So remember, brightest is not the same thing as lightest, okay? Brightest is, it's the relative intensity of something. So things like pastels would be very dull and not bright, but lightness is just more a matter of, relative darkness of an area. So anyways, so I tend to go a little bit brighter in my shadows, taking his word for it. All right, here's black right here. And let's go in and introduce, I'll bring some of this into my shadow areas of my trunks. We already used the gray, but we can use some, I don't know, whatever color this was. It was like a bluish gray, slate gray, okay? But we'll bring in some just gray tones with the pencil here to really kind of refine our shadows a little bit more or a lot more. Okay, that should be it right there. I might add more things later, but let's go with this for right now. Here, actually that is making the trees look a little bit more rounded with a little bit of extra contrast in them. All right. I'm trying to decide if I want... It seems like I should have something on this road, like someone like walking this way or something. I'll decide on that later. What do you guys think? Having this creature alone, but this road is so long right here. Halloween's past here, but if I was doing like this kind of a nod to The Walking Dead, it would be like a zombie walking off that direction. All right, let's bring out the white paint pens. God, do I start off with this one right here? It's so thick. 3mm white acrylic paint pen. We'll hit the opposite side of the trunks for some illumination. I'll just do it real sketchy though. And I'm not just doing like one line. I'm just kind of, you know, trying to make these, make it look a little bit more, whatever, varied, I guess, in terms of the light hitting it like so. You can see that that point really stands out, doesn't it? And then on this side of the trees, notice how I flip my page around because I'm able to do this line easier with the page standing up from this angle, but over here I'm able to do it easier like this. So just flip your card around at whatever angle is going to be the most conducive for, you know, the most, whatever, graceful application of media that you can. All right, like that. Get a little bit more texture in here too. There's some these little knots on the tree that I'm kind of going in and adding a little bit more lighting around. All right, now let's see. This one right here, this trunk right here has a lot of that background covered bridge image showing through. So maybe I'll come up here a little bit more. That. So I just kind of block it off a little bit. You know, you don't have to kind of use it like an eraser where you get like every little speck of it. And in here too, I have some of the sedge fillers showing through some of these trunks. But it's kind of in the shadow areas of those trunks, so I don't really need to do that. All right, let's see. Let's bring some of this into the other areas here. Let's start off with some color though first. Or let's actually the leaves. Let's do the leaves up here. Okay, so we're doing this with our acrylic paint pen. We're not doing it with like dye-based inks, okay? Because dye-based inks are transparent, so we need to hit some of these leaves in here with a little bit more opacity. So right now it looks like, you know, kind of most of the trunks, I don't know what it looks like. I was going to say the trunks look like they're in front of the leaves, but the leaves are just like see-through. So where the leaves are kind of you know, where they're just kind of invisible, or they're translucent over the tree trunk edges, the, you know, the outlines right there. What I'm doing is I'm just kind of going in like right around here. See, these leaves are right in front here, but this trunk right here is showing right through it. So what I'm doing is I'm just going in here and I'm obscuring that line a little bit. And you don't have to, like I said, you don't have to do the whole thing. I think it would look kind of awkward. So you just kind of break up that line a little bit visually. And you just do that over, you know, several of those leaves. And again, you don't have to do that with one color. We'll be doing it with several colors here. All right, now there's some red leaves right in here over the impression of this stamp right here. So all of that really gets muddled right there. So again, I can't see where, you know, exactly where the leaves are. I can kind of see it a little bit, so I'm just covering some of them like this and bringing them out a little bit and just making it up. I'm just kind of like putting a dot of color there. And where these leaves are supposed to be kind of like shimmery anyway. You don't have to be perfect with it. You can just be adding in like a stroke of, you know, color like that or a dot of it around in there and it'll look fine. It looks kind of strange if you do like once, but if you bring it over the whole thing like this, it kind of makes more sense and it it's not like some kind of strange addition of color in a given area. And again, this is just the first color. We're going to bring in yellows in here too. All right, now as this dries here, let's do this too. I bring in some of these colors, like it's been, like leaves have fallen down here too. It looks super bright right now, but it's going to soak into the paper and it's going to look duller. Hopefully. I'm going to bring a little bit of that touch into the background imagery. You know what I need to do? You know, something that's missing in here. I need to bring in some orange tones into this grassy area. And it would look more natural. You get that kind of that ground cover that turns, you know, colors with the fall as well. So let's do a little bit of that here. I always bring this up, but I really enjoyed walking around Maine in Acadia National Park. Specifically, that's where I was, but and just enjoying all of that. I don't know, it's like bright reds and orange bushes, you know, like ground cover foliage. In addition to all the trees that were amazing. Okay, that looks a lot better there. It's kind of warming it up too. I'm just hitting it with like a, I don't know, at most maybe a 10% version of this. Like about like that. Most of it's like this though. Okay, yeah. All right. That has given my leaves a little bit of time to dry. Let's go in with our yellow here and give that a try. My grassy area is looking a little bit muddy, but that's where my white pigment ink really often comes and saves the day. All right, let's get this really flowing here. Ooh, that is really bright. Maybe I'll have this yellow kind of on those background smaller branch leaves. I stamped out these smaller leaves right here before I stamped out these ones right here. And I did those background ones in the kind of a golden yellow, kind of a little bit of an ochre yellow. So I'll just have some of those highlights on those leaves like that. All right, and let's try this duller yellow as well. That is really bright in there, but again, it kind of fades out as it dries. This one's like practically see-through here. Okay, here we go. Right, and let's place some of these. I think the yellow, the canary yellow one was going to be too bright for this purpose down here. Oh yeah, I forgot about those little fall modeler's leaves. I can paste some of those or a couple of them down here too. I totally forgot about those ones that I've used in previous videos. All right, let's add a lot of this color down here. It's dull enough to where I can get some good texture and color variation using this, but it's not so pronounced that it really stands out. So sometimes it's a good example of having something dull and not as bright. Okay, dull in terms of interest too in some ways, but dull in terms of intensity and value. You can really kind of use that all over the piece, and it just kind of doesn't really stand out too much or at all, but it kind of unifies things, and it brightens it up too. All right, that is that. We have this little tiny bit of this area that can, you know, it's like water under the bridge, so let's bring some of that. A little bit of a bluish tone in here, or an excuse for this in here. Like about like that, I think. I haven't mentioned this in previous videos, but sometimes you can bring this bluish tone, a light blue tone, over your objects, and it just kind of finishes them off really nicely in the lighter areas, of course. So if you've retained some lighter areas, it doesn't necessarily mean that there's like water in this area, but it just kind of adds that extra little, you know, sometimes almost invisible touch. Like that. Okay. A little bit of duller blue here. Okay. All right. I wanted to see what this white on the trunks looked like before I added this as highlights into this grassy area. Because if this kind of dulled out quite a bit, I didn't want this to stand out too much. You ate too much. When those carbs kick in, might fall asleep. I was getting some, I got the craving for some carbs last night. It's too bad that the you know, the late night carb thing, you know. They usually don't recommend that, you know. But I don't know. Like I love carbs though. But I am eating less of it. A little bit less, not a lot. But I love things like breads and stuff like that. That's why I was thinking about, you know, those cheesy grits sounded really good. These Friday Night Live videos, you know, it's before you know, for me, I start them at 4 p.m. So it's like, it's before I eat. So when someone mentions, okay, they're eating some whatever, ice cream or something like that, it definitely gets my attention. It's like those times that like the Costco samplers, you know, by the time like dinner comes around, that all those sampler things are gone. or like after dinner. They don't have those sample carts out there anymore. They're always out there like leading up to, that dinner time. I don't know, whatever, like 3:30 to 5, maybe. I don't know, something like that. I'm not sure when those things come down, but that's why those things are always so effective with me. All right, so see this white we're adding in here. Everything's kind of like shimmering a little bit now. Um, if you haven't tried like highlighting before, or adding in this type of light on darker, it can really add a nice kind of texture and touch and light. It's like a finishing touch on pieces. Sometimes I go overboard and it's like, oh my god, everything's like, it's crawling with little dots. Like maybe I'm going a little bit overboard in here, but everything looked kind of muddled. I wanted the richness of the tone, but everything was looking a little bit muddled too, just from the use of all those colors. But for me, I do go for the muddled a lot of times just because I like all that layered color in there, knowing that I can bring in these little highlights in here and I can go with that white pigment ink in there, and it solves all of the whatever the coloring issues that might have come up, in the name of whatever color richness, I guess. All right. So that is that. I put a little bit of highlighting up here. I kind of reiterated what I did with the coloring. I went with a little bit of brown tones up here, and I left it lighter up here, but then I just came with lighter up here and then tapered that off. So I went with light front to back and dark back to front like that. So you can do a lot of little things like that, that's kind of fun. If you're working with these, the different size pens too, if you want to do something, you can put, let's see here, get this flowing here. You can do little highlights on the sides of some of these leaves. You don't have to do them on all of them, but see, it's like on some of these edges of the leaves, maybe I'll put like a little highlight on the side of it. And it can make them look even more dimensional that way, and it happens in, out in the natural world where the edges of things have a little bit of highlight on them, right? So you see that highlight just on this neutral colored thing. Here's your white highlight like that. So you put all these little, you can do all these little things like on this little ridge here. Here's a little highlight right here. And again, here on the pens, everything. Like, maybe not my nails because they're not, I don't have good nails. But you get the point, on any kind of like object, if you have that little kind of flashing little highlight on it, again, it just makes it look a little bit more dimensional and I don't know, maybe visually interesting, or I don't know, maybe it's not interesting. Maybe, if you give this card to someone, that's not, it isn't a scenic stamp or something like that. You might not kind of recognize, oh my God, you highlighted, the side of, your leaf or something like that. But I think it kind of adds up, to the piece overall. And it just kind of makes the piece, like I said, kind of like shimmer a little bit more. All right. Hello, military mom. How are you? No, grits aren't like a biscuit. Or are you talking about in terms of composition? Okay, let's see here. I've never made grits before. I should. I think the only place I've ever had it was sometimes when you go like to you're staying somewhere and they have that, well, they call it complimentary, but just the included breakfast in, yeah, in the, the whatever the room rate. And I've had grits in places like that before. I don't think ever cheesy grits though, it was just plain. All right, white pigment ink, and hopefully this kind of brings everything together, and it remedies some of these areas that whatever I overdid or whatever that look a little bit awkward. Let's see here. So there's some heavy kind of applications of my sedge filler around in here. Like I mean, this looks okay, but I just, if I kind of subdue that a little bit like that, see now it's like in this veil of fog. So suddenly, that area that I don't want you to see is less visible. Okay, so here's this bridge right here. Let's put a little bit of this. Let's vary it a little bit, I'm just going to put some of this down here, like here's the water area. I mean, I could put it in the front too. A lot of times I do, but here, let's just put this in the back like this. And you're applying it kind of like it's almost like powder or something like that. Okay, again, you don't want to put it like a big blob of it. Okay, I'm getting what I want done here, like in 20 or 30 taps. Okay, it's not like in one tap. All right, so that's a little bit of that fogginess down here. Let's put this right in here. Looks like, kind of muddled in here. So let's go for a little bit of variation. You don't have to do it over all of it. You're not covering up everything. Maybe you can put it like that, and now suddenly you have, some of this mist right in here. You can do the torn paper towel technique too. You can go like this, and you can kind of create a little bit of a mask, and you can add some of this down like that, where this is a little bit more crisp, and it, something like that. Fog is coming up from behind a little tuft of grass like that by masking it off like so. See, it's like putting a little bit of this lighting, or this mist is like coming through the trees like this too. I like that right there. That looked good. So all these trees are kind of in the same stamp right here, but this one gets pushed back a little bit there. I'm covering up some of my reeds here, so I can restamp some more reeds in here if I want to, but the reeds should probably be really, quite dark against that mist in the background, but, so be it. But like I said, you can just put some more impressions right over the top of it. This is where it's like kind of coming together for me. It's adding the atmosphere, I guess. Okay, so this right in here. It's fine, but now, you've put the that little area scenario into this glowing light. Your friends and family will wonder how you did it. All right, so see that there? It's changing the entire kind of forest floor area in here, isn't it? And let's put some at the base of the deer here. I think it's standing in that mist, or it's like this glowing soft light. You can put that the front of it in there like that. So I'm kind of illuminating the right-hand side. The left-hand side is darker, just like these trees in here, that type of thing. This is a really long stretch of this road right here. So this line here kind of gets a little bit awkward. So what you do is you just kind of break it up a little bit like that. The road is still there, but it's softer right here. See the same thing right here? I don't know, maybe I'm going too far. Maybe I should leave that there for contrast, but so I have some of this right here. So it's softer, crisper, softer, crisp like that. And again, I mean, I could do this whole thing again. I'd do this completely, the lighting scheme's just completely, or whatever, the misting, foggy scheme looks different, okay? I might, so there's not like some set thing that, where that's better to add it to or not. You just add it and you just kind of don't do it over everything, just like shading, you add a little bit in some area, then you oscillate it. So in this case, it's the oscillation of whatever, soft and sharp, I guess, or sharper. Everything's a little bit soft in this scene. See this right in here? You get some of that lighting kind of showing through these leaves now. And that makes them look a little bit more, oh, I don't know, kind of integrated into the scene. See this whole top of this stamp right here, I just put a little bit of lighting in there like that. So, I'm trying to think here. Let's see, or I'm trying to see. It's a little bit more of a kind of a friendlier tone, maybe. Atmosphere to it. Doesn't look like a little bit more integrated now too. You have this whole kind of misty kind of thing. It's in the background, it's in the midground, it's coming from behind the trees, it's in front of the trees, it's in front of a foreground objects like that. But it on a scene like this, your white pigment ink really, for me, it really helps me. It helps the scene out. And I've been doing this for so long that it's just like, when I'm coloring something or stamping it out, like this paper right here for me is kind of awkward because it's so absorbent, okay? So it's just, it's a little bit, I don't know, I have to tame the scene a little bit more because some impressions get impressed darker and some of them are lighter because it's getting absorbed in there. Coloring all that in there, it can be a little bit weird, again on this really cheap, super cheap paper. I do it on everything, but on this one especially, I found it kind of like a little bit awkward. But as long as you have your acrylic paint pens and your basically white pigment ink, I just know that there's all kinds of things that I can do to remedy whatever happens within that coloring process there. So yeah, it's definitely something to consider, I would say, if you haven't tried it before. Play around with the pens. What it is, it's incorporating translucency and opacity. It's putting light over dark, and that can be a really formidable kind of ability on scenes. In the past, I years ago, it was always working with transparent media, dye-based inks, and colored pencils. They're not they're a little bit opaque, but you can kind of see through them still. But since the invention of the colored paint pens, we had gel pens before too, but they weren't as good. I put that yellow in there to give it a little bit more pop in here. That again, that's going to dry and dull out. That yellow there is going to look like more like that yellow right there. But I don't know. It's hard for me to live without it. All right. So I just wanted to see, like this like scenario here, just with a little bit more imagery, and I wanted to play around with these inks a little bit more. So I'm investigating a little bit more and more with each one. This one seems a little bit deeper, I guess. But this one right here is like a 30-minute scene, so it's really fast. But I want to see what this stuff can take a lot of times when I'm trying a new surface. Now, you can say that, well, okay, I covered up a lot of that marble paper in there. There's a little bit of variation within this right here. But I don't know. On white, this would probably look a little bit different. There's subtle shades in here that are shadows underneath my media in here that gave me a little bit of a head start to the end result. Okay. So it's good in that. But again, it's still fun to play around with these kind of existing whatever background papers that have these existing patterns and stuff on there like that, because they can contribute nicely to scenic scenic interpretations. Let's see right here. Ground corn or hominy, yeah. I need to make some of those sometime. Shrimp and grits. I've never had that before. Watch a after this video, Linda, watch a grits how to make grits instructional YouTube video. I should do that too. Yeah, it's a southern thing, huh? I don't know where I've had it though, but I've had it. Like I said, it was in those morning breakfast things. I don't think I've ever had it like as a side thing when eating in a restaurant, like in the South or something like that. I'm pretty darn sure it was always in breakfasts in hotels. Yeah, I'm trying to remember the last time I've had it. Have you tried the acrylic inks? Bonnie, yeah, I haven't, no. There's an acrylic ink that you're saying. The only thing I've heard of is acrylic paints before. So, man, how would acrylic ink work? Or have I? Have I? I think. Yeah, I think I've only used acrylic paint before. So, yeah, like even like this glow in the dark one. See, this is an acrylic right here. But I don't know who makes those if it's an acrylic ink. And are you talking about that would have to be in a bottle though, right? Unless they've watered it down like a lot. Acrylics typically dry fairly fast as far as like a paint goes, so I can't imagine it with an ink in an ink incarnation. It sounds interesting though. Yeah, that ground cover came together with the by burying like half of it in white, different densities of that white pigment ink in it, Linda. That was my least favorite area of the piece, was all that how it was looking with the colored pencil. But I know that it's it's kind of just provide, it's almost like a base layer. You know, my colored pencils are kind of like a base layer for the acrylic paint pens in here. And, you know, the white pigment ink. But I'll tell you, telling you the truth, you know, sometimes when I'm starting to do, like, this one had a large field of that colored pencil in there, and it was looking really, really muddled. So sometimes I'm wondering, is that going to look, you know, really, you know, okay in the end? But it typically, you know, I think it looks okay as long as I add that sharpness back into it. So you get, you know, the, I don't know. I don't know if I would do anything differently on there, but sometimes it's all those colors that I bring down in there: greens, browns, oranges, yellows into those colors down there. Not so much with the colored pencils though, but especially when I used to use, or when I do use layered dye-based inks for the coloring in here. Okay, so I can't do like dye-based ink coloring in here. Maybe if you're using like those stipple brushes or something like that. But this paper is just like way too thin to take very much dye-based inks on here. That's why I use the colored pencils down on this, you know, for the coloring on this piece. And I don't go into this with like a applicator with a, you know, wet media on here. It's just too cheap of a paper. But I don't know. It's fun to play around with that. It helps my, it'll probably be, if I keep working on this paper periodically, it'll probably get me using colored pencils a little bit better. You know, I'm not really great at that in terms of building up a lot of layering and transitions with it. I just use them kind of minimally. But I think I would have to do, because those are the colors that that's the media that I'm getting coverage with. I think you know, I should probably play around with those a little bit more. Thanks for checking it out, Mama Pillow. Hello, Janet. Good to see you, as always. Amsterdam makes them. Okay, acrylic inks. I'll have to check them out sometime. I'm curious to know the acrylic inks, what the viscosity of those would be. Are they thin like yeah, like dye-based inks, or maybe a little bit thicker than that, or something like that, or what? That's what I'm curious about, and I'm curious about the amount of coverage. I'll have to look them up. I'll see if there's some you know, YouTube vids or something like that on that. So Amsterdam acrylic ink, then. Yeah. So you use them too, Military Mom? The acrylic inks? Is it the Amsterdam brand then? I've never even heard of Amsterdam, unless they're an art, more of an art market type of thing than the crafting market. I see you stamp off the leftover ink onto your scrap paper when you're finished. Better than wiping with a cloth. Janet, it's definitely faster. Yeah, I don't know. I just sometimes I might have like a wet paper towel next to me, but that's like so seldom. So if I'm stamping stuff out in a lot of like black, okay. So several of these images I'm always stamping out in black, like this one and this one. I might add a little bit of color to the trees on like that colored bridge. This one I might change up, you know, stamp it in greens or whatever fall tones, you know, like these leaves in here. But typically I just stamp them off like that, and I scout, you know, I rotate it a little bit like this. And that's, to me, has always been sufficient with most things, unless I'm changing colors. Like if I want to use that stamp the next time with green or something like that, I might clean my stamp off with a damp cloth if I think about it. But otherwise, I don't know. I don't bother with the cloth or cleaning materials or anything like that. Sometimes if I'm stamping too long and I have a gigantic pile, like this one right here is starting to build up a lot of black ink. If the stamps start kind of resisting ink a little bit, like I'm not getting as good of an impression as I want to, then I'll clean them off with like a, where's my, I still have this ancient Posh Impressions cleaning pad. Someone told me that this is just one of those cleaning pads that you can get at like Home Depot. They just put it in a nice kind of pink container. You can see how old this is. This plastic is just, this plastic wasn't out in sunlight or anything like that. It was just so brittle, it just totally cracked up. But this is it's my same cleaning pad from probably like, I don't know, 30 years ago or 35 years ago. But sometimes I'll just clean all my stamps off. It's like, okay, I'm getting bad impressions, so I'll do that. But otherwise, I'm a lazy cleaner. But the way that I use my stamps, though, that's always like mixing of colors and everything like that. So yeah. I wouldn't clean if I were you. I'm just joking. Some people can't stand it. Some people even like. Back in the old days when it was all Woodman stamps, some people just couldn't stand having ink on there. They had to have it like really clean. So what they do is they put clear nail polish around the image right in here, and probably around maybe the bare sides of the wood like that. But mostly it was on the surface that the stamp was on, just so that it would wash off clean. Or they put the whole stamp under the sink too, to wash it off, and they'd really scrub them off like that. For me, I'm not really like that. Daily Rowdy have been around. Yeah, I recognize that name for sure. That was a Daily Rowdy. What was it? Always Daily Rowdy, or were those separate entities at one time? I'm trying to think if I have any media that was just Daily Rowdy, but I think that was the hyphenated thing. I forgot what I have by that company. They are permanent when dry, thin for pens. Okay, that's the acrylic ink, though, huh, Cynthia? They're thin like regular ink. Many brands out there. I don't. Yeah, I just don't. I don't think I have those. Or do I? You're not okay. So you guys aren't talking about. I have these metallic inks, and now I'm starting to wonder if those are. I don't even know where they are now. We got these shimmering styles of ink. Now that I think about it, I don't know, I have to find them somewhere, but I'm starting to wonder if those ones were acrylic. Oh, yeah. Let me see here. Oh, well, this is acrylic, but these are acrylic paints, though, right? Is it this similar type of thing? I just got the metallic ones right here, but these are acrylics now. So it's, what does that say? Permanence something, white pearl. When I saw these pearlescent ones, I was like, oh, I got to get those. And I saw myself using them on a brush, like in like a sky or something like that, like a sky scenario, like doing like a Milky Way and putting some of this in here. I never really got around to playing around with that though. But I don't know, are they in bottles like this? Because I don't think these are considered inks though, are they? Or are they? But like, I don't, what brand is this? Yeah, this is that Daler Rowney. I'm probably butchering that name. It sounds like a simple name, but I don't know. This is an acrylic one right here by that company. So you just reminded me when you talked about the brand there. But yeah, I got several of those pearlescent ones at one point in time. I get excited about those types of things like that, and those pearlescent types of papers too. I don't know. I'm a sucker for like shimmer, I guess. Silicone circle from the dollar store with little nibs. Okay, it's okay. Clean cosmetic brushes works well with the stamps without damaging. Silicone circle, and that's to clean cosmetic brushes. Okay, so you use those on your stamps then. Mama Pillow to clean them, you're saying? Inks can be used in Colgate. Okay, yeah, yeah. I would imagine these are like dip types of inks right here. But again, are these inks then? Anyways, okay, so the inks, I don't know. I need to see if I have some of those. Maybe I have like a gold or something like that. But would that work on here? You know, having that wet media like that. I guess I'm using the pens on here, the acrylic paint pens, so I guess it should work okay, right? This paper right here is so thin, and I'm thinking, I guess it depends on how much you're using, right? If you're using a lot on something like this, that acrylic might really make this paper buckle. But I guess we're spray sealing it down on something anyway after, or at least that's the way I'm gonna format these scenes with the spray adhesive. But yeah, I don't know. Does anyone have any examples of using those acrylic inks then? And if you're on Facebook, or email me something maybe. I want to see kind of like some of the end results with that. But or you can, yeah, if you're on Facebook, post it in the Stampscapes Facebook group, so that everyone can see it. The Amsterdam bottle says you can write, paint, and use with the spray gun. Okay, yeah, 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 yeah. So yeah, I think like these types of inks like this, I'm guessing you can use them with like airbrushes and everything like that. Yeah, but with the dip paint, with the calligraphy pens. And I don't know, it's like some of these, I guess if someone's like a brush calligrapher, I would imagine you can use these types of things with it. Unless we're talking about an entirely different type of paint, but I gotta think it's something similar to what we're talking about, right? Isn't that PBO? What's that PBO? I don't know what that is. Yeah, yeah, Mama Pillow. So that's what I want to do. I want to do these kind of more. Oh, I don't know. I want to have more lighting in a night sky type of scenario. So I think I got these two, and I don't know where the other ones are. I bought a whole box of those one time. I remember it distinctly, and I haven't used them because they just threw these in a box without hardly any packing material, and one of them like came burst. But I want to use stuff like that in night skies and make it look a little bit more, um, I don't know, like whatever, impressionistic or something like that. Here's some glitter right here, gold glitter or holographic glitter. It's a little bit different colors in there, but I want to do like those other types of things in there. I'm all into the. I didn't used to be so. Um, I didn't used to use like blingy types of materials, but I'm all into that now. I don't you do it as much, but I'm a big fan of it. Especially after using those like metallic papers and stuff like that. It's like it's like I had to ask my wife, "Do you still have those stickles that I gave you like 15 years ago?" So, yeah, we want to add that more of that sparkle and stuff like that to a night sky. I think that would be really cool. They usually are in a bottle with a dropper too. Okay. Yeah, mine. This is not a. This is not a drop bottle type of thing here on these ones. But I don't know. Now, yeah, talking about these things, I gotta bust these things out, and I need to find. I think I had like two or three other versions of blue. This one's like a violet tinge blue or something like that. But I think I had more like an ultramarine or something like that. And I don't know, maybe a lighter blue one or something. I need to see. I need to find those. Did the fog might work with the inks? Well, those inks, I don't know. Unless they're white, though, Mama Pillow. What I do to the fog down here, like this right here, this white one. I don't know if it would be. It would probably go on somewhat transparent. But the question I would have is maybe what you do is you add that down like that. And then you go in with this really reflective, sparkly type of thing. And if I put a little bit on there, kind of and dabbed it off, and then added a little bit of that into the mix, like in a really thin form, or up in the leaves or something like that, with adding that up in these leaves here with a brush, I don't think we'd be able to see it. I think it'd be transparent, but it's like those holographics or something like that. But then when you kind of, you have it at a certain angle, if someone's looking at the piece, I bet you it would be really super reflective, so it can add that aspect to whatever objects or areas. So that might be pretty interesting. I'll have to see if I have like a gold one of these, and I'll play around with it a little bit up there in those leaves. I think it could make them look a little bit more dimensional, not like that, but if you kind of move it around a little bit in the lighting like that, I think that would work. Because that's also what happens with, things like these glass shard types of things that I've added into scenes. You can't really see it just kind of looking at it straight on. A lot of times, maybe the silver one you would. But stuff like these, things like this, when it catches the light, it kind of adds that little extra thing to, areas and objects. So, I don't know. Yeah, maybe that would look really cool up there if I have any kind of gold, or I guess even clear. I guess this one would be fine. If you add that in there, I mean the color underneath would show through, right? I don't know. Or would we want that? Would we want like a shimmer on those leaves like that? Maybe it would be better in the gold, huh? Up there. I don't know. We'll figure something out. I love accessorizing. I don't know if this paper is the ideal thing to accessorize on, and to build stuff up on. Like I said, this is like thin as like tissue paper, but I guess I can handle a little bit of it. They dry fast. Okay, yeah. The one of the things that I was doing with an acrylic not too long ago, because I'm used to using, the only thing I kind of paint with a lot of times is this Dr. Martin's bleed proof white, and you can just, that can like completely dry in your brush and harden. You can just rinse it off and it comes right out of there. But man, I was doing something with an acrylic paint for some purpose, and I just left it for, I don't know, it was like even like a couple hours or something like that. I don't know, it might have been longer than that, but it was just like completely dried, stiff. So I need to, with those acrylics, you really need to wash out your brushes or whatever your applicators you're using them with. Okay, these ones are paints. Oh, okay, got it. I'll play around with the other ones though. I'll try to find those then. Acrylic inks. Inks with acrylic binder. They are inks with an acrylic binder. You can use them on anything like a paint pen. Got it. Huh. I need to see some of these things too. There's probably a bunch of, are there a bunch of stampers that are using them these days? I mean, you guys apparently have been. Do you guys like post stuff that you've used with these inks before? Sometimes, sometimes I'll see some techniques, or not techniques, but I'll see the finished piece on the Facebook group, especially, and I'm wondering, all right, what did someone use on that? Because I'm not. Usually, it's some sort of a. I can usually pick out most things, but when there's anything that's a little bit more kind of opaque or translucent, I see these textures in there. Those ones are the ones that pique my curiosity, just because I haven't seen something like that, or I'll see a light on dark type of thing. Um, those are the ones where I usually ask someone, "Hey, by the way, what did you use there?" You know, if I don't know their process, where um, some longtime posters on there, I'll know what they've used in the past, so I can kind of deduce what they've used. But I don't know. I see pieces going up there all the time where it's like I have no idea what they did or what media they use more specifically. Um, yeah, I don't know. But yeah, if those acrylic inks work well, oh my God, that's another medium. We just kind of keep adding on to the adding into the whatever the process, But if it results in kind of some cool results, then so be it. So writing simple here on YouTube. Do class every Tuesday last month on them. Oh, okay. I'll check them out. Scrapbooking Made Simple. That's the name of their channel. Scrapbooking Made Simple. I got mine waiting on the next set of colors. Okay. And it's those ones were the Amsterdam ones, Bonnie? All right. I have stuff to research apparently in the as far as media goes, and food preparation with the grits. There is our latest test on the marble paper. Maybe I buried the marble paper too much, probably, but it's still pretty fun to work on as a base. And again, I think it took the stuff just fine. I think that's, I'll do some more further scenes with this in the future. Like I said, so I didn't do like a Greco-Roman scene, with the pillars and stuff like that, the marble entablature and platform and all that type of that little thing. So I want to do that too on this paper because that would be like perfect for it. But yeah, I'm pretty happy with the way that this takes. Not this one in particular, but just a thinner type of paper accepts the inks just fine. But on this one, it was looking rather muddled on my first attempt with so much color and layering and stuff like that. So, as is often the case, the opaque and translucent media comes to the rescue in the form of the paint pens and the especially the your white pigment ink can really save the day. All right, everyone, have a great rest of evening and weekend. Hope to see you on the next live stream. I think I'm going to do some more impromptu types of ones periodically here. I've been playing around with these different types of papers, but a lot of experimentation to come. Just even with just layouts and stuff like that, stamp sketches. So, yeah, I want to get into like this one's dipping into some of the older sets here too. So, A lot of different types of experiments to come, apparently with the acrylic inks here too. But if anyone has some examples that they've done or any tips, let me know what you found in an email, or you can, I don't know, whatever, IM me or something like that. All right. All right, let's see. Class are in the studio with Stacy on her page here. Great. All right, sounds good. Thanks for the tips there, everyone. I will check that out, Bonnie. And have a great rest of evening. Oh, wait. What did you say you used to stamp your leaves? The pens to the left. Oh, yeah. I colored my leaves with these right here, but then those are the background leaves that I laid down with. I laid out these ones right here with these two colors right here. And then this one right here, which is the larger one, this comes on the set with the covered bridges, but you can use any kind of larger leaves. I stamped it out with this orange right here, but then I went back in with my pen and I just did some like highlighting on there with the yellow so that it didn't come out just all one uniform mono value impression. It came out with like more of a watercolory type of a varied impression. And then when you do that, you don't have to do as much with your acrylic paint pens or something like that to vary the tones if they're already inherently in the impression themselves. So I like to lay my darker color down with, that, and then with my Marvy colors, I just go back in and scumble some of this lighter color back in there, pulling off some of the, removing some of the darker orange. And then, if you're worried about this pen right here, you just kind of scribble it off right here like that, If you have a nice big fat marker, and it's fine like that. This pen, I've been doing that same type of thing for 30 years, so that's horrific to a lot of people, but I don't know. That's just the way I was brought up coloring from an early stamping age at a Stamp in the Hand company. The watercolor technique like that. So yeah, drop me a note if you have any questions, Janet, on coloring like that. And then, just depending on how that came out, I always have my acrylic paint pens to go back in and add a little bit more color variation into my leaves if I want to. So, luckily these pens like this are so cheap these days in those multicolor sets. You don't have to go with like really super expensive ones. These ones are like, I don't know, incredibly inexpensive. I've been using the same set, I think, for the last like 5 years or something like that. All right, folks. Have a great rest of the evening. Great to see you all, and hope to see you on the next live stream.